what really happened between Jungkook and Jimin. One look that changed everything. For years, BTS fans have witnessed the unique closeness between the group's two youngest members, Jimin and Jungkook. They call it Jikook, a name that not only represents two idols, but also a deep story of bonding, feeling, and unspoken moments. But recently, a simple incident, just one look, made everything change. Shaking up fans, reopening old questions, and creating an unstoppable surge of emotion. The incident did not happen on stage, nor in a live broadcast designed for entertainment. This happened in a closed training session that was accidentally recorded in an internal documentary video that was later leaked to the fanbase. In a simple room with minimal lighting, the BTS members are rehearsing for a special performance. The camera highlights the serious atmosphere, then slowly leads to two figures in the corner of the room, Jimin and Jungkook. As Jungkook sat pensive, Jimin, who had just finished training, slowly approached. No words, no touch, only a deep gaze, as if breaking through the boundary between two worlds that never really revealed. Jungkook looked back, not with a smile nor with tears, but rather with a sincerity that is almost painful to look at. In silence, thousands of stories seemed to pass from eye to eye. The video was only 14 seconds long, but it was enough to make the ARMY community around the world speechless. No words, but all felt they understood something much bigger was happening. A fan from Japan wrote on an online forum, "I don't know what to say, but for the first time, I felt like I was seeing something too honest, too real for this mask-filled world." A fan from Argentina wrote, "It wasn't just a stare between two best friends. It was the gaze of someone who kept too many feelings too long." Since that moment went viral, netizens began retracing Jikook's various interactions in the past. The way Jungkook always turned to Jimin first when scolded by the manager, or how Jimin unconsciously checked Jungkook's face every time the photo shoot was over, as if to make sure he wasn't exhausted. All those little pieces now look like a puzzle that is finally starting to form a whole picture. Korean media began to ask, is this a form of unspoken love? Or is it just a friendship that grows too deep? But the fans know, maybe the answer does not need to be found. What matters is that in a world full of highlights and pressures, there are two hearts that cling to each other, strengthen each other, and understand each other in silence. Jikook is not just a shipping or fan fantasy. She is a reflection of how emotional bonds can grow in unexpected places, amid the glare of cameras, hectic schedules, and the expectations of millions. That moment of gaze proves that human relationships, whether they are love or sibling, can be so powerful that they can change the way we look at a story, and maybe that's what happens when Jungkook and Jimin look at each other. A brief second that reveals everything without a word, without a sound, just a look that changes everything. The night sky in Seoul that day seemed ordinary dark, full of stars that were barely covered in the city's light. But inside one of the closed training buildings, which was hidden from the hustle and bustle of the outside world, two figures sat in silence. They are Jimin and Jungkook, two souls who for years stood on the same stage, yet that night felt like they were the only ones in the world. After the training was over, all the members had split up. Some go home first, some choose to take a shower or call family. But Jungkook stayed. He sat on the wooden floor with his back against the large mirror of the studio. Only the sound of an old fan spinning quietly over their heads accompanied the evening. Jimin entered quietly, his steps silent, as if worried about disturbing the silence that seemed so fragile. He brought a bottle of water and a small towel that was thrown at Jungkook without saying a word. Jungkook turned his head, accepting with a faint smile that didn't reach his eyes. They didn't say anything for a few minutes. But it is precisely in silence that their communication feels most honest. Until finally, Jimin sat right in front of Jungkook. He looked at his sister and best friend, not as a groupmate, not as an idol, but as someone he has kept so deep in his heart. That look, just one, but so deep, their eyes met. Jungkook was silent for a moment. The look in Jimin's eyes that night was no ordinary highlight. It's not like they were joking in the waiting room. not like during vocal rehearsals or while filming a variety show. The gaze was soulful, a wound that was never told, full of confessions that have been suppressed. And as it happened, as Jungkook returned, that look time seemed to stop, and oh, words of love. No verbal recognition. But in that view, they know each other, that the flavor is there, that the feelings that they have been trying to wrap up with laughter and light jokes are actually deeper than others can understand. Young Jungkook whispered at last, his voice quiet, almost inaudible. Jimin replied without turning. I know, Jungkook said again. But I don't know how to say it. Jimin looked down for a moment, then sighed. We don't have to say anything tonight, he said calmly. Just sit here with me. That alone is enough. But behind his calmness, Jimin also hid the storm that kept spinning in his chest. He wanted to say more. Want to open all his feelings that he has kept since years ago, from the first time he saw the innocent and shy little Jungkook, until now he has grown into a mature and responsible adult man. But he knew their world was too complicated to keep confessions that simple. That night they sat side by side, leaning against the mirrored wall of the rehearsal studio in a silence far noisier than the thousands of cheers at any concert. And when Jimin finally put his head on Jungkook's shoulders, there was nothing more to explain. It was a night when all the doubts, all the confusion, all their fears temporarily subsided. But the story does not stop there. A few days later, they began to face the world like live broadcasts, rehearsals, comeback preparations, and never-ending public pressure. But something has changed. The people around them began to see something inexplicable. The way Jimin looked at Jungkook every time he spoke. Kara Jungkook smiled wider every time Jimin was in the room. Or how they are often caught on camera sharing deep gazes that have never been so clear before. One of the most moving moments was when Jimin appeared in a live broadcast alone and suddenly talked about someone who had always given him strength. It does not mention names, but as she says, this guy never says much, but I know he sees everything I do, even when I feel insignificant. The camera captures her tears barely falling. A few minutes later, Jungkook walked quietly into the room and handed over a tissue with a smile. Fans who watched the live broadcast immediately flooded social media with the phrase "he came," without the need to be called. It's not a show. That's not fan service. It was a moment in which the heart spoke for itself. They know that what they feel will not be easy for everyone to understand. Some will scoff. Some would think it was just a fan illusion. But both have reached a point where they are no longer afraid of people's interpretations. All they know is that they have each other. Jimin once wrote in his personal notebook, whose footage appeared in a special documentary, a simple sentence that brought thousands to tears. You may never say it, but I'll wait for you until you're ready. I'll be here, as always. And Jungkook, in one of the last interviews before entering the military, said, there are people who make life easier to live, even when I want to give up. I am thankful that this man is always near. No need to say names, because for many, it is more than enough. This story is not finished. Currently, they are serving a term of military service, separated by rules, but not by taste. Letters from fans kept coming, strengthening them, but also reminding the world of the bonds that neither distance nor time can break. That gaze, which changed everything, probably only lasted a few seconds. But the impact is much greater than one can imagine. Because in that one look, there are thousands of words that are never said. There is truth, there is hope, and there is hope. And when the stage lights come on again, when they finally stand side by side after the end of military service, the world will see them not only as stars, but as two souls who have gone through everything together.